And the title of today's talk is, I've forgotten it already, Life Does Not Begin in the Future, It Is Now. This title was just inspired to me from a conversation I had with my friend who I saw at the weekend, who was saying that she always has the feeling that life is going to begin in the future when she completes this or does that or gets to this, and it's never going to begin. You're never going to do enough things and then be like, life begins when I get this house, when I get this person, this girlfriend or boyfriend, when I complete my taxes, or when I get enough money, or when I get slim enough or fat enough or whatever it is, my life will begin. And your life's never going to begin. It's beginning now. It is now. It's here. It's happening. This moment, this waiting is what removes you from this. It's what makes you feel like you are somebody moving in time, like you're always focused on this timeline rather than what's happening now. All there is love. Boop, boop, boop. When you're identified with being something, so when you're identified with being a person, then life can't just come and go, because there is something which is being held onto, which is an impossibility, and it is a struggle to try to hold on to this perception of self, because there is nothing that's permanent. Everything is always changing and moving. So we all have these characters. So Lisa has a character, or there is a character here called Lisa, and dependent on where you look from, I could say that's me, and then from another aspect, that's not who I am. Who I am is the infinite, but that's part of me. That's how life is experiencing this world, is through this Lisa character. And this Lisa character has likes and wants and doesn't like things, and has ways of being, has qualities, has things that she's good at, things that she's not good at, has relationships, has difficulties in relationships, has ease in relationships, has all types of experiences through the character. Now, if there's an identification with that's who you are, so if you feel like that is who you are and that you're that solid entity, then it's like you always come in conflict with life, because you're trying to hold on to something that cannot be held on to. It's like if you imagine a kaleidoscope, like all those different colors moving, and they create all these different shapes. So you look through it and there's a beautiful shape, and then you move it and it all moves again, and a different shape is created. When you're identified with the sense of self, it's like trying to keep two particular squares in the kaleidoscope still. So it's trying to keep part of it still and letting everything else move, and it can't. It screws up the whole picture if you try to do that. It can't move unless all of it moves. It's the way it works, and that's the same with what's happening. So there is this character that's appearing and disappearing in every moment, and it's not who you are. And that character is always changing and always growing, and is never the same character. But the character has like a pattern to it, just like a flower has a pattern to it. The flower doesn't just suddenly turn into a dinosaur. It remains in the pattern of a flower. It could turn into a dinosaur suddenly. I mean, there's always the possibility that anything could happen. I forget the probability of that happening. There is a probability that life could just get it wrong. It's like the scientific equation that something like 0.1 of a chance that life just gets it wrong, and suddenly there's magic, like the flower turns into a dinosaur. I'm looking out of the window here at my mum's beautiful flowers. So there's always that possibility that that life could be random, but most of the time it fits into a pattern. So Lisa's character has a flavor to her. If she didn't, like, part of the reason that we have these like personality structures is so we can communicate and interact with other humans. If we didn't have like this semi-consistent personality, then it would be difficult to relate to other personality structures and to our work and to our environment. So we have this sort of, or this personality structure or this character, which sort of stays the same, but also is evolving and changing and growing. And it's not a solid person, it's like a habit that happens. So when I'm in front of my mother, I behave a certain way. And when I'm in front of my lover, I behave a certain way. But it's a habit that appears. It's like you get put into an environment and a certain outcome happens. So I'm sat in front of the camera and I can't stop looking at myself. There's myself. So every time I do that, you can see that I'm looking at myself. I'm joking. I am looking at myself, but that's not the habit. It is really hard though. Why? I'm going to make it small, my picture. But like when you do FaceTime and Skype, there's always a picture of yourself and you're like trying, you're like, okay, we're talking about serious stuff here and I'm looking at my reflection. Got to cut it off. What was I talking about? So when I'm in different circumstances, there's different habits that come out. So when I'm put in front of the camera, I talk about non-duality, not all the time, but this comes out. And when I do one-to-one sessions with people, I'm always different in the one-to-one session, dependent on how that person is. I can't say this is the way I always do things or this is what happens, because I'm always picking up on the energy of the other person. Then a sort of like third character is made with the mixture of the two energies. But there's a flavor that goes through. And when you're identified with it, there is a belief that that's who you are, that that person that was at some point born and exists as a soul inside the body and at some point dies or moves on to heaven or moves on to God or whatever you believe happens after the body dies, but it lives inside the person and that's who you are. Even though you have no proof of it, you can't sort of turn around and find this person that you believe yourself to be. You kind of feel like that's who you are and you're trying to be the best version of yourself all the time, and you're always kind of examining what you are and what you're like in relationship to people and what other people think about you and where your life going and what you're going to be. So you think about yourself a lot, and then that really feels like who you are, and you have this image of yourself in your brain and you're always trying to live up to this image, and you don't want to be the bad person, you don't want to be an asshole, you don't want to be weak, you don't want to have a naughty dog, you don't want to I don't know, whatever it is. You have an image of what you want to be and what you want your life to be, and that's really important. And that kind of keeps you living in the timeline, because you're always imagining something that's not here. So you're always imagining what you're like, or what you're going to be like, or what you were like, or what you said to this person, or what's anxious and what's annoying. And every time you imagine something, we're so intelligent, we have a feeling inside the body. So you imagine like having sex with this amazing hot bartender or something, and you imagine that, and then your whole body is like aroused. Or you imagine like falling into the fire pit and your whole body is in like agony or discomfort. Or you imagine an argument you had and you feel guilt. So you have these imaginations and then you have these feelings that follow through. Some people can't feel their feelings, which is always very interesting. Some people can feel their feelings. Some people feel their feelings too much, it's too overwhelming, and some people are totally dead and numb to it. But I'm sure everyone can relate in some way to what I'm talking about. So most humans live their life in their imagination of themselves. They're not actually living life, they're living in imagination. So they're sort of living a removed life, and that makes life dull actually, and it makes it feel like, instead of being full of infinite possibilities and wonder, it makes it feel like you're limited and contracted inside the body. And then what you do, because you become obsessed with thinking about yourself, you believe that you can find the solution to your problems inside your thoughts, which is always in time, so in past or in future. So you believe that in the future you're going to one day arrive at a place which is perfect. And when you arrive, you can be happy. So you're one day going to complete all the tasks that you have to do. You're going to clean the house. You're going to get enormous boobs. You're going to become mega rich. You're going to become a superstar. People are going to appreciate you for who you are. You're going to make up with your mother. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. Then you get to 90 and you're like, oh fuck, I never actually really experienced life. I was always experiencing life through an imagination of life. And the really amazing bit about this present moment, which blows people's mind, and some people love and some people hate this, is in this moment, there isn't separation. There isn't a you that's in relationship with life. In this moment, there is only life. And in this moment, that's all you ever have. Like right here, if you don't imagine the past or the future, if you don't imagine that way or that way, boop, 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 then you can't imagine who you are. Who are you if you don't imagine it? But this imagination of you has become so strong, it kind of feels like you end here. You end at the edge of your body. But as there begins to be a breaking with the identification of your thoughts and your feelings, the thoughts and the feelings are really interconnected. As you do that, and there is a collapsing back in more to what's actually happening, you see that in this moment there is never actually somebody. There is this infinite nature, this wholeness. But that's not the end point. That's not what you're meant to end up with, I don't think. And this has been confusing for me over the last 8 years of how to communicate this, because there's meant to be a collapsing back into this present moment and this connection to this infinite. So that's who you are, is this infinite. But then there's always meant to be an appearance of a character, I think. I mean, I can't be sure about all these things. Just take from these talks what you feel resonates with you. But for me, like, there are some speakers, very few, that say the character, everything totally disappears and there is nobody. But I feel like that's not, there is nobody, yes, in this moment there is no one, but there isn't a character that's meant to appear and disappear. So the character, when you're talking with your friends, the character is appearing, your imagination of Lisa, the imagination of you is appearing. And then when you go into silence again, and you're not thinking about that character, there is this infinite space. But when that character is there is also this connection to the infinite space. Basically what I'm trying to say is this isn't a denial of the character. The character, you're living, this life is meant to be a human life. So even though we say there is nobody, or I say there is nobody, there is ultimately nobody, and that's got to be seen, and that's got to be seen and energetically experienced, that this reality isn't happening to anyone. But yet there is an appearance of character that comes and goes and is always changing. And I think that identification with being nobody or with being somebody, either way, creates resistance to life, because you're identifying with something, and there is nothing you can identify to be. There is everything, including the personality structure, including the character. But this becomes really difficult to talk about, and I can't say that I've managed to intellectually settle on a way to speak about this. I always change everything I say, and it's not about saying it in the correct way or putting it correctly. It's more about picking up on the energy when it's being spoken about and challenging what you believe to be true. Because as it's challenged energetically and intellectually, your beliefs, then what are you left with but this moment? So when it's challenged what you believe yourself to be in the future or in the past, or you believe yourself to be right now, when that's let go of, what's left? What is left? And then the character can come up and say, I went for a walk with my dog today, and I did more paperwork, which I thoroughly enjoyed. You can see now all my paperwork sitting here. This I'm not a fan of paperwork, and I managed to move to a country that is a massive fan of paperwork. Everything has to be documented. It's karma. Whatever you try to push away always comes towards you. Whatever you try to bring towards you always comes towards you. And I have to say, a lot of my life I've been trying to avoid the paperwork. So now I've got karma back. And I will become good at doing this paperwork. I will. And then we go back to nothing. So right here, who are you? There is nobody. You aren't that person that did the paperwork today. You aren't the person that did your garden or walked your dog or went to the shops. You are this moment, this infinite space. This part everyone's forgotten. Everyone believes they are someone, and life becomes so stressful when you are someone, because what also comes with that thought is it's your life, it's your responsibility to make your life happy, and that you choose, and that you've got free will, and that you exist separately inside that body in relationship to everything. And all of that's bullshit and going to create you loads of suffering because they're false ideas. But if you identify with those ideas, they will also create you suffering. The goal of this is to remember that you are no thing, not a thing, and everything. And you're experiencing life through this human character form. You can't escape that either. And I'm sorry if in my earlier talks I didn't acknowledge the character enough. I couldn't do anything differently. But now I'm more inclusive of the character, because after you've met 100 people that you see are using there is nobody, because their life is going crazy and becoming incredibly fucked up and they don't know how to cope, so then they're like, there is nobody. And that's not going to work. That's going to drive you to the nut house. This is absolute embracing of every part of this life, which includes the character. It's found in everything, which is nothing. It's not exclusion of anything, it's everything. I got a little, I got a little, I got a little, I got a little. To just check I'm still in the picture. My hair is still okay. Sometimes when you're doing talks, especially my character, I end up, my hair's like. This is the good thing about doing it in front of a camera, is every so often you can just check the hair is still in place. One time, with a very good friend of mine that is a teacher, we were sitting in a coffee shop, and I went off somewhere, and he was speaking to people, like, I don't know, it was about 10 people around the table that he was speaking to, or 5 people, I can't remember. And he was talking about non-duality, a very serious character. And he'd been eating pan of chocolates. And I go back, and everyone's listening to him, and everyone's too shy to say anything. And he's managed to get the whole pan of chocolate all over his face. Very serious character. And he's talking about non-duality in a very serious way. Nobody said anything. And then I came back, and I was like, a little bit of chocolate there on your face. It was so funny. That sort of thing cracks me up. When we're too shy to say, oh, you got a little bit of a bogey hanging out of the, a bit of a, and we all have these situations. The worst is when you're in a romantic situation, you have a booger, and you realise you've got a booger, you go like that, and you're like, oh God, oh, you're on a second date. Of course, that's not happened to me. My nose doesn't leak at all. My nose, everything always stays up here. Now I know that you think, I can't take her seriously if she talks about the body in this way. I can't take her philosophy or non-duality seriously. I'm trying to think of a joke of that, but got to that, and then I'm like, there's no punchline. You see, I don't make up the jokes beforehand. I just kind of do it, and they come out, and they either bomb or they're successful. And that one, nothing came out to. Can't take her seriously, and then nothing came out. Well, you can. It's okay. You can find someone some funny, and you can also appreciate their seriousness as well. I'm sure I've said this many times before because I say everything. I used to struggle going through different characters. So I used to struggle being a funny one, sexy one, serious one, sad one. I used to feel like I could only present one character, like only one part, like the funny or the sad or the serious or the sexy, particularly the sexy. The sexy and the funny I found really hard to integrate. But fuck it, who cares? You can integrate all of them. You can just be whatever you are in the moment. It really doesn't matter. If you've got an idea that you have to be something else than what you are, then you're going to create discomfort. I mean, sometimes I get embarrassed by some of my silliness. But you got to look at things logically. I would rather take the few seconds of embarrassment than restricting myself, like and holding it in. And it's okay to fail. Like, this is another idea that people get really stuck on, an identification that people get stuck on, is that if you fail, there's something wrong with you. Life, like if you look at metaphors and storytelling, like all films and TV shows and books and novels, everything is about failing and getting up again. And then the human gets it in their brain, this story is telling me that I cannot fail because it hurts. No, it's telling you, you fail, you fall over, and then you get up again. Or you take away from the story, it means if I have pride, or if I'm really excited about something, or really happy about something, and then I fall over, it sucks. So never let myself get too high. I must stay small, because then when I fall over, it won't be so hard. And sometimes you're not even conscious of these games. Often, actually, people aren't conscious of it at all. And then you're always pulling yourself back. You're allowed to fail. You are allowed to fail. So many times. I've failed so many times. And you can't really fail. That's just an idea. It's just that you trip and then you get up again. Things go like this. I wish I'd known that when I was younger. When I was younger, I had some crazy ideas that you had to be like perfect at something in order to want to do it. So you had to. So I used to be a drummer at school, and I was quite good, I think. But the teachers used to make fun of me because the place where I was allowed to practice was near to their staff room, and they used to make fun. And then I thought that what they were telling me was that I had to be perfect. Like that practicing, the part of practicing and then not doing things right meant that I wasn't allowed to do it. So I gave up, and I was really good, I think. And then also I had this like audition. I hadn't been playing that long, and I had an audition, and I was quite young. I was only like 14. And then they expected too much of me. And then I just after that thought, no, I'm not good enough at drumming. And I didn't realize that that's it. Like you fall over, people laugh at you, you make mistakes, you go to an audition and you're sweating so much that you can't keep the beat. And then you do it again. That is the lessons of all the books. That is the goal. That is the path to success, that you withstand failing, falling over. That's part of this life. That's part of being human. what could we write novels about or create art about if we didn't go up and down and up and down? We succeed, we fail. In a way, you could say it isn't that. It's just like a way of helping you grow and expand. They say it's 10,000 hours makes you an expert. That's life. Okay, so now we will take questions. So if you want to call in